Hello, it's Mike at Farming Smarter here. I thought we'd take a break from some of the harvest activities going on. Kind of sick of the hot and dry and some of those low rain-fed yields in southern Alberta this year. So thought we'd come out where something's fresh and lively and green and big and tall. And so we came back to our favorite plots here, the hemp plots. And right now I'm in the rate and date trials, and I'm just going to give you a sneak peek at some of the different things that we're doing and that we've got upcoming. So I got a big tall salacia here. And so one of the things that we're looking at is the differences in plant height here for our different rates and populations and dates. And so obviously we have to get an extra tall plant height stake here in order to be able to measure these. And what we're doing is we're looking at a number of different things. So if somebody's hoping to use this as a true dual purpose variety, that means they're going to try and harvest as high up the plant as they can and take the grain from the top and then keep the rest of the stem for biomass. So we've got a couple measurements that we're going to do. We're going to take the total height of the plant, and then we're also going to look and see just how low down the seeds go and where a producer may want to actually cut this. So we're going to take a measurement how far down the stem the seeds go, and then we'll be able to determine how much is actually left for fiber if somebody was to use it in a dual purpose application. And we're going to do the same thing with some of the other cultivars in our trial here as well. So that's one look at what we're going to do, and we'll go through each one of these plots with our jumbo height stick here and get about 10 measurements in every plot. And then we'll see whether or not that changes for the different seeding dates, which were, early May long weekend and beginning of June, or whether or not there's an effect for the different seeding rates, which were, quite low, about 10 pounds an acre, our typical about 28 pounds an acre, and then a really high seeding rate, about 40 pounds an acre, 400 seeds per meter squared. That's a more recommended rate for the fibers, where the grain varieties, a more normal seeding rate's about 250 seeds per meter squared, and that's our medium rate there. So we'll be looking to see how that's affected. The other thing we'll be doing is we'll be looking at the actual physiology of the stems. And so one complaint and one problem with cutting seeding rates, especially if you're processing for fiber, is what happens to the plant itself. So here I've got plants seeded at a high density, or kind of normal density, or for grain at least anyways, and then a really low density. And you can see what happens here. So we're going to pull out some calipers, and we can actually get a stem measurement about 30 centimeters up in the stem. This is going to be about right here. And we see we're hitting 8.7, 9, sometimes even 10 millimeters of thickness on the outside of that stem. And what that's going to do is it's going to be really hard to chop, and then it also makes it harder to process down the line. So once this goes to a decortification facility, once it gets baled, it's a lot harder to handle and manage. And so if we look at something that's planted at a high plant population, this would be 400 seeds per meter squared, and that's about what's recommended for fiber yields. We're looking at about half the thickness. You've got about 4.5 to 5 millimeters now, and so they're literally half as thick. And that just makes it a lot easier to handle for the producers as well as the end users. So those are two of the main things that we're looking at here in this rate and date trial. I'm going to hop down now. We'll go take a peek at the varieties and show you how we're going to do our THC testing. So one of the requirements for growing hemp crops in Canada is testing for THC. Although there are some varieties that are excluded, most of them here we're going to test. Additionally, we're going to be testing a complete cannabinoid profile. So that include the new kind of up-and-coming cannabinoids like CBN and the CBG and other phenols and things like that. So just thought I'd show you a couple heads. Normally these will get cut off about 20 centimeters, but we're really targeting about 25% of these bracts to be open. So you can see they've just kind of been pollinated here. If you want to get in close, the seeds will develop right in this nice protective covering here. And so when these are just starting to open up, that's kind of the optimum time to sample for THC. It's possible, because these are open pollinated in a field here, as opposed to a greenhouse setting that sampling too early or too late can just, you know, maybe give minor influence to the amount of THC present, which is, you know, limited to below 0.3% in this setting. So this is the other one I have, and you can see now I've got some that are starting to open up here, and the seed just falls right out. So when it's time to harvest hemp, one of the challenges is that unlike, say, a crop like canola or maybe even wheat, where you can just go in and desiccate and even things out, or the crop itself naturally ripens pretty uniformly, hemp is rather indeterminate, and you know, there's more of an art to harvesting hemp, where you have to maximize. You know, you may start to see some seeds start to fall to the ground, and you'll still have lots of green buds here where the seed is developing inside. And so you want to harvest it while the plant itself is still relatively green, and while there's still quite a few green on here. I mean, already this head looks quite green, but compared to this one, there's no open bracts or anything whatsoever. This plant here, this was from a much earlier variety, and I get a lot of seeds coming out. If I work my way down here, I got a lot of open ones, and the seed is just about ready to harvest. So these will probably be the early ones that we lose, but you know, we'll be looking to optimize our yield here in the coming weeks. You know, we're probably another week away here from sampling everything and sending it off to the lab. And then probably another month, maybe the beginning of September, we'll be out cutting some of the biomass and harvesting for grain yield as well. So check back with us then.